Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about mistakes that you need to avoid if you're an immigrant or a new immigrant in the United States. But first, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is NAFULA. Let's go straight to the point. Mistake number 1. Avoid voting in a US election if you're not a United States citizen. Voting is reserved for only American citizens. So if you have a green card or if you have a non-immigrant visa, whatever visa you're on in the United States, if you vote in a United States election and they find out, or maybe you answer this question yes, it means that you will never get your green card approved or you will never get your citizenship approved if you voted in a US election if you're not a citizen. A lot of people don't know this, but do not vote in a US election or do not participate in a United States election if you're not a United States citizen. Number 2 mistake. With the current immigration state of affairs in the United States, I'm going to talk about this. I wouldn't talk about it before, but then now I want to talk about it. So if you have a non-immigrant visa, you're here on a student visa, or you're here on maybe a travel, a visitor's visa, or you're here on any visa that you're on, avoid unnecessary travel outside the United States at this time. Why do I say this? When we reflect on the past, when President Trump was president back then, there were countries that were put on the ban list. They were banned from the United States. So if you travel outside the country on a student visa and then your country, for some reason, your home country is banned from the United States, you will not be able to re-enter the country. And because we don't know what countries are going to get banned and when that will happen, I will advise you avoid unnecessary travel. Just travel when you have to travel. Number 3 mistake. If you're on green card, if you came here on a diversity visa lottery, or maybe you got your green card through family based green cards, or you got your green card through asylum, whatever green card you got, but you have a green card, like you're currently a permanent resident of the United States. When you travel at home, make sure you come back to the United States before a year ends. In other words, you stay in your home country less than a year. Why is this? Because if you stay outside the United States or abroad for more than a year, it's considered like you're abandoning your green card status. So when you come back at the port of entry, actually the customs whatever officer might deny you entry because you stayed outside the country for more than a year. And we know some stuff happens. Sometimes, somebody goes there, they get sick, and then maybe, they're discouraged from coming back or maybe traveling for long periods of time, and then you stay there because it's not your choice. So if that happens to you, then you might get an exception. Another thing, maybe you're from Congo, these countries that are unstable, and then you go there, you stay in one region, and then there's war or there's fighting in a region, and then that prevents you from actually going to access the airport to come back. So you can have reasons for staying back home. But then anything like forgetting, I didn't know this rule exists, that doesn't apply. So make sure if you stay outside the United States for more than a year with a green card, make sure you have a valid reason. When you come back to the United States, and maybe you've stayed outside the country for more than a year on a green card, and maybe you are asked to sign any paperwork at the port of entry, do not sign anything. Because sometimes they might trick you into signing a document that makes you willingly abandon your green card. So make sure you don't sign that document. I don't know the name of the document, but I think it's I-447 or something. You can ask immigration lawyers. They know about it better than I do. So do not sign any form, and anything you're given at the port of entry to sign, make sure you read everything, including the fine print. If you do not understand anything, do not sign anything, refuse to sign anything, and request for an immigration lawyer. Okay. Let's go to the 4th thing. If you're here on anything other than a citizenship, do not commit crime. I'm not saying like citizens can, it's okay to commit crime. They're not supposed to commit any crimes. But if you're a green card or you have a non-immigrant visa or any visa at all, if you commit any crime, that can lead you to getting deported. Like, if you like something like aggravated felony that I talked in my last video, or maybe using lies to get immigration status, or maybe, faking asylum cases and stuff like that, and then they find out. So doing these things can make you deportable, or you can lose your green card if you commit crime. So if you're here on a student visa, you're here on green card, you're here on whatever, do not commit any crime. And if you're a citizen, this applies as well. Do not commit a crime. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next mistake, or something that you should watch out for, is not paying attention to the expiry of your status. For example, you have a green card or maybe a conditional green card and it expires in 2 years. Make sure you file to remove the conditions before the expiry of your visa. If you're here on a student visa and maybe you came, like for example, I came on J1 visa, it was good for a year, and then you get OPT for like 9 months, and then after 9 months you'll be out of status. Pay attention to those dates. Why is this important? So that you file paperwork, or you find a job, find a different school, or whatever you need to do to keep yourself in status. A lot of people who come here on a visitor's visa, they are not aware that as much as your visa is good for 5 years, it expires after 6 months. What am I trying to say? So if maybe, for example, your visa is issued in 2025, and then it's good until 2035, when you enter the country, you have to check the I-94. What is your duration of stay? So if it says 3 months, that's going to be 3 months. If it says 6 months, it's going to be 6 months. If you stay longer than the duration of status, then you run out of status and you become illegal in the United States. What does that mean? It means like if you exit the country, when you try to come back, they will not let you back in because you are out of status. So maybe if you stay, maybe for example, I don't know very well, I'm not an immigration lawyer, but then there's usually the bans for like, maybe if you stay for 3 months, you'll be banned for a year or 3 years. If you stay for more than a year, you'll be banned for 10 years. So you have to pay attention to that. So that you need to consult an immigration lawyer to clarify you on, like if you stayed here for 90 days, you stayed here for a year, like what kind of ban applies to you. Another thing that I'm going to talk about is this one applies to American citizens. American citizens, usually we get very comfortable, and I can, I'm going to just be straight up and, I'll tell you that I've done this mistake before. What is the mistake? If you're an American citizen and you travel outside the country allows for dual citizenship. Like I'm from Kenya. Kenya is okay with dual citizenship. Tanzania is not, you cannot be a dual citizen, but you know what? Kenya does. So what I do when I travel back home to Kenya, I get on a flight here and I present my American passport. But when I get to Kenya, because I'm a Kenyan citizen, instead of presenting the American passport to be stamped, I present the Kenyan passport to be stamped. And why do we do that? Because if you're a Kenyan citizen, you don't pay for a visa to get in and out. So in other words, you're saving like $50, I don't know, $100 just by not getting your passport, your United States passport stamped, but instead you're getting in with a Kenyan passport. Where is the problem? The problem arises when you try to come back. Usually when you leave, there's no issue. And this problem has never been a problem before until now. So when you try to come back, remember when you got into Kenya, you presented your Kenyan passport, so your American passport wasn't stamped. So when you come back to the United States, the officer at the port of entry, when you go through customs, they might take your US citizen passport. And then you're forced to do what? To go back home. This has not been an issue. It happened to a friend of mine. She came from, I'm not going to say the country, I'm not going to say the port of entry, because then I don't want, her to be a target or anything like that. But she came from her home country, which is in Africa, not in East Africa, it was West Africa. And then when she came back with her 3 kids, the same situation happened. Like when she went over there, she had to present the African passport. And then when she came back at the port of entry in the US, she presented the United States passport. And they almost did not let her in. And the reason why they let her in, I'm thinking, is because she had 3 kids. So she was her and 3 kids, and the 3 children are United States citizen. They couldn't deport the mother and leave the kids by themselves. So I think that's the reason why she was let in. But then after that happened, then I see a lot of people have come up saying that, well, I'm a United States citizen, and this actually happened to me, and there's somebody actually who was sent back. I don't know about the person who was sent back, because I don't know who they are. But then a friend of mine actually almost did not get into the United States. And I'm thinking the only reason why she got in is because she had United States children. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that if you're here and you're an immigrant if you're here on non-immigrant visa, you're here on immigrant visa, you're here as a citizen, you have to pay attention now more than ever. If you're doing something, just make sure you double check with an immigration lawyer. Whatever you're doing is correct. Make sure you're following the law. Don't assume if you go to Kenya and present a Kenyan passport, that's something that I just do it without even thinking. I never knew one day it can get somebody in trouble. So just make sure with the immigration status of this country right now, make sure you double check everything. Thanks for listening to me. See you in my next video.